This is going to tell me all the people that are conversing with me. This particular person is retweeting, which means that this person has literally just hit a button that says retweet within an application, or they've literally just copy and pasted something that I wrote, and they're letting their followers know about it. And some other people are just responding to things that I've said. But you'll notice a huge amount of people here are actually retweeting. So what this does is when you click on this little thing under the home button here that'll say @ and then your name, all the communications that are going on in the Twittersphere that have your name in it, or your Twitter identity in it, are going to come up. And this is a very useful way for you to interact with people. And you can reply back to them just by putting your mouse over this and hitting the reply button. And you'll notice up here it says the and sign and then Vivek, and I can say, hey, thanks for that retweet, or whatever I want to say. So retweets are very important. And let me just tell you how to do a retweet. I'm going to go back to my Twitter homepage, and I'm going to look through here, and let's say I found something really interesting. Let's just say it was this one, Cablevision speeding up net access. If I go here and just hit the reply button, all it's going to do is it's going to reply to this Fractal dude with whatever I type in. But if I actually copy this information and paste it up into here, and then I go RT space @Fractal, that means I'm retweeting what this guy @Fractal did. Now there's some problems here from a marketing perspective with putting RT colon and then a username in front of whatever you're retweeting. I would much rather recommend you do it this way. Cablevision speeding up net access, and then the URL, and then I say via @Fractal. So what I like to do is I like to move the username that I'm going to give credit to for this quote to the end, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit the update button, and that's going to show up in my Twitter feed. By doing that, I get people to focus on the front end of my headline here, and then click on the URL. And if they want to learn who I learned this from, I moved it to the back end of the thing. And this is something that I strongly recommend that you do. It will dramatically increase the likelihood that someone is going to retweet whatever it is that you're talking about. So let's go back to retweets for a second here. One of the things that's really cool is that when somebody retweets what you've written, essentially what they're doing is they're broadcasting to their entire audience whatever you just said. So for example, let's just pick this guy right here, Java STL. He retweeted something that I wrote that said social media will be a $3.1 billion industry by 2014. Forrester, and then the URL. And then he threw a couple of hashtags on the end, and I'll explain hashtags in a minute. But if I click on this guy's identity, let's just see how many people are following him. While we're waiting for that to come up. Okay, so he's got 956 people that are following him. So what does that mean? Whenever he retweets something that I've got to say, all of his followers that happen to be within Twitter are going to also learn about it. And if one of his followers chooses to retweet it, you can see how this is a massively quick way for you to spread an enormous amount of information. So the retweet is actually one of the more powerful ways for you to get the word out about what you're doing. Now let's also talk about hashtags. Not only did that individual put a retweet for me, but he also tagged it with a hashtag, social media. Now a hashtag simply is a # and then a keyword. And what happens is a lot of people follow what's going on with hashtags. And let me just show you how this works. If I go to search.twitter.com, which is the search engine for Twitter, and I go back here and I copy this hashtag, which is social media hashtag, and I type it in here to Twitter, watch what it's going to do. All sorts of people that are twittering with the hashtag social media, all of their content comes up. 6 must-dos to excel your Twitter brand. Now I really like this one, and I actually could see myself retweeting this one. So this is a great way for you to look at what people are talking about that they've actually intentionally tagged with a hashtag. And it's just a really great way to find stuff rather quick. Now while we're in search.twitter.com, you don't have to search for things with hashtags. You can search for just about anything. Like let me just search on social media. And you'll notice here's a whole bunch of stuff coming up on social media. 7 ways to use social media to build stunning brands. Well, that's kind of interesting. Just tons of stuff. So if you think about certain keywords that you're interested in or that your followers are interested in, you could just do a keyword search on Twitter every once in a while and find some great content that you want to tweet. Notice while I was talking, up popped this thing that says 4 more results since you started searching. This is what's kind of cool about Twitter, is that you can actually click a button and up pops more stuff dynamically on the fly. You can even add this feed to your RSS reader if you want to, which is a great way to keep up with what's going on Twitter. Okay, getting back to Twitter. So we've talked about replies and replies and retweets. Let's talk about direct messages. What's kind of cool about Twitter is that you can send anybody who's following you a direct message. Now, you can only send them direct messages if they're following you. And what will happen is up will come a list of all the people that you're following, and you just find the name that you want to send a direct message to, and then you start typing. Now, there's another way to do this. You can just, while you're on your home page, if you're twittering something, you can type in D, and then you can type in like Denise Wakeman. You notice it says direct message. It just knew that I was doing a direct message. Denise Wakeman. I can spell it. This, let's see. Hi, how are you? Send. Now that direct message went only to Denise Wakeman. It did not get sent into my profile. It was a private thing, and I don't have to worry about the world seeing it. And you'll notice it's not there in my profile at all. So, moral of the story is a direct message is a really great way to communicate with people. But remember that you're only limited to 140 characters in direct messages. What's really cool is I have found that a lot of people are very responsive with direct messages where they're not responsive at all with regular email. One thing you want to keep in mind, when people have lots of followers like I do, they get tons of direct messages. So don't be surprised if you do not get a response from somebody over a direct message if they have literally thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of followers. They're getting so many direct messages, it's probably overwhelming them. Okay. So, just to review, we've talked about setting up your profile. You want to pick a website address that is going to be something that makes sense for Twitter followers. I recommend, if you have a blog and you have a corporate website, to make your blog be the place that people click on. And the reason is because when people are using Twitter, they don't want to buy products, they want to discover things. And they might find you because someone retweeted something that you said on Twitter. They might click on your name and come to your profile page, just like we see right here, and then they might want to learn more information. And that's where sending them to your blog might make a lot of sense. And this is where they can discover a lot more information about you in a very non-obtrusive manner. And at the end of the day, you could collect leads and all that kind of fun stuff. But moral of the story is, be strategic about how you pick that Twitter particular page that you're doing. And once again, use a description that is going to be compelling. Now, let's talk about this graphical stuff. You could, if you go under settings, just use some of the default graphical banners that Twitter has offered to you. And all you have to do is click on settings and click on design. And when you do that, you will see all these little themes that already exist, which are kind of plain themes. I would suggest, if you can, get a little creative and create something in Photoshop, and I'm going to show you how exactly I did that. This is actually my Photoshop file, and what I did was I took a look at what the parameters were, and first of all, I noticed that on Twitter about the first 110 vertical lines are essentially utilized by Twitter. So the first thing you want to do is you want to create that space, and actually, no, it's actually more like 82. The first 82 or so characters are where the Twitter icon is and some of the navigational elements. So what you want to do is you want to create a cool little something that floats up in that first 82 character space. The other thing that you want to keep in mind is that there is a space that's about maybe 300 pixels wide at the most, that you can go ahead and you can include some information about you. What I did in Photoshop here was I literally just have a picture and some text that I've created and an email address that people can contact me on, because you cannot put an email address inside of Twitter. The other thing that I did, you'll notice, is I put some information over here, which is just part of a graphic, like here's my blog, here's my company, and so on and so forth, and here's a little snapshot of my book. Creating those kind of cool images make you look really professional, and when someone comes to your Twitter page, they might say, wow, this is someone who seems interesting and I want to follow them. And I got to tell you, when I went ahead and updated my profile graphically, my followers went through the roof. Before, I had a very basic, just plain Jane colored profile in the background, and it didn't do squat. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind is notice how this looks. When you scroll on the page, the background stays exactly where it is. Now, this is important. If you have a lot of people who might be on a laptop, their screen might not go down very far. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to have information scrolling all the way down the screen, because some people will never see it, because there's no way to scroll a background inside of Twitter. It stays in a static position, and when you scroll, you only see what's in the center of the screen that moves along. So, and you'll also notice here, Twitter has their basic stuff like their profile and find people and all these buttons hidden behind a white backdrop. So when you do create your graphic, you want to make sure that there's nothing behind it that's going to be obscured by that. And then, of course, the Twitter logo itself, you also want to make sure that does not fall over the top of your name or something like that.